a world, the church would have it, governed by Satan.
If you decide you want to do some of your own thing, well, you can. Be careful, because this world is deceived. It's deceived by the devil.
And Satan's temptations abound, even across a crowded room. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to marry outside the church, a source of much heartache in itself.
What were the circumstances that led to you leaving?
I attended a son's wedding.
Your own son?
My own son, yeah.
What was wrong with that?
Well, he was marrying a young lass who was an Anglican. Now, all other churches are considered as children of the devil. So they said, and I quote from the man who was the branch coordinator at the time, you don't give your children to the Philistines.
But the strictures go on. Jehovah's Witnesses can't vote, can't join the military, aren't allowed to celebrate Christmas, even their own birthdays.
Birthdays, because they see it as bringing too much attention to a single person. With Christmas, I think everybody understands that a lot of the symbolism associated with Christmas obviously isn't Christian. It's come from other practices from around the world, and they use that as their part of their justification.
And most controversial of all, Jehovah's Witnesses can't have blood transfusions, a dictate based on an obscure biblical passage that's cost many thousands of lives worldwide.
I was 18 at the time, my brother was 20, he shot himself in the next room. He was shot himself in the head. We rushed in there, he's bleeding from from his ears, his nose, everything. And my first thought, I said to my parents, whatever you do, don't let them give him a blood transfusion.
So you'd been brainwashed?
I had been brainwashed. That is what I thought, he mustn't have a blood transfusion. Here's my brother dying in front of me. And that was my first thought.
Your priority?
My priority.
How do you feel about that?
I'm on the verge of tears now as I think about it. It was just so callous, so, yeah, that's what the religion does.
Bad stuff?
Bad stuff. Bad stuff.
Some of it actually here inside the hall.
And then there's the child abuse, all the elements of exploitation, betrayal and cover-up, present in the saga of what happened to Simon Thomas.
He actually molested you inside the church itself?
Inside the Kingdom Hall, yeah.
Amazing.
It is. Looking back, it was amazing.
And equally amazing, Natalie Webb's story. Her father's abuse compounded by the callous indifference of church leaders when it was brought to their attention.
You must have been devastated.
Well, I tried to take my own life a few weeks later because I couldn't cope with it.
So you tried to commit suicide? As a result of that, did you get any help at all from them?
I got a counselling session from them saying that it was due to me not forgiving my father, that's why I wasn't coping.
Well, I was told that to endure until the end is to be faithful. It demonstrates your faith. And I was also told to leave it to Jehovah, because Jehovah will work it out. But why can't we expose these things that are happening and then leave it to Jehovah?
We can't live with this anymore. It has to come out in the open. I'll give you a week to go to the elders.
But Victor Webb wasn't about to confess, so he was exposed.
Okay, so your husband goes to the elders. Which elder did he go and see?
Morris Hadley.
Morris, yeah.
Morris Hadley. That is from the Sunday program.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about the sex abuse case involving Natalie Webb.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You know her father?
Well, indeed I do.
You used to play tennis with him, didn't you?
Where did you get all this information?
Well, we have our sources.
Yeah.
Do you still have any contact with Vic?
Occasionally.
What did Morris Hadley say to him?
Well, he was very shocked and couldn't believe it.
Because your father had been so devout?
And they were quite friendly.
What do you think about what he did to his daughter?
I think it's deplorable. Absolutely disgusting.
Why?
And I have never, ever condoned that man's behaviour.
As senior elder at the local Kingdom Hall, Maurice Hadley formed a judicial committee, the way the church deals with all breaches of its code of behaviour, from smoking a cigarette through to serious crimes.
There were 3 elders, including him, in that committee. And they apparently, so Maurice told me, spoke to Bethel in Sydney and decided amongst themselves that no one should know about it. It should be a private reproof.
So, for sexually abusing his daughter from the age of 4, a crime he readily admitted, all Victor Webb got was a reprimand behind closed doors.
A private reproof?
Private, yep. So, and then he would be put on a course of Bible studies, because that's what was wrong with him. Spiritually he was sick, so he was told.
At the very least, Natalie Webb had wanted her father disfellowshipped, expelled from the congregation, the ultimate sanction for Jehovah's Witnesses. It didn't happen.
Why didn't the elders of the church disfellowship him for what he did?
Why didn't they?
Yeah. Why didn't you?
Well, I'm not the decision maker.
You were.
No, I was only one of them. I was a committee.
Can you tell me
Part of
why
the
he
committee
wasn't
at the time.
disfellowshipped?
Well, not now, I can't.
I'd believed all my life that when you do something wrong, you get disfellowshipped. And I guess I went a little bit crazy. You know, I just couldn't work it out.
A secret deliberation, a private reproof, no recourse whatsoever to the proper authorities.
Did you go to the police?
Which is a reasonable... No, I didn't.
Why not?
Well, it was something for the family to decide and do.
Morris said to me that the authorities shouldn't be notified because it would be a bad witness, and that they would be able to handle the situation.
So Maurice Hadley told you quite specifically not to go to the police?
Yes.
Yeah, and I say that that's not true.
You swear by that?
I swear by that, categorically.
You never said that to her?
Never said that to her.
Yet here's something that lends weight to Natalie's claim. A letter from her mother to Maurice Hadley and the other elders in 1997.
Your inability and reluctance to deal with the police shows we would have been waiting forever.
By now, the family had had enough and had gone to the police themselves.
Because I'd never had any dealings with the police, I was very apprehensive, but they were just the most compassionate, wonderful lot of people, and I was so surprised. I got more caring and concern from them than I did from any elder. Genuine caring.
Victor Webb pleaded guilty in the Victorian County Court to 8 counts of indecent assault and 7 counts of incest. He was sent to jail for 10 years, but the church elders supported the criminal, not his victim.
They sent 3 representatives from the congregation to be with Dad. Yep, and
During the trial?
during the trial, and no one was sent for me. And in fact, they ignored us. When we walked into the court, they wouldn't even speak to us. I guess they thought I was satanic or heading down that way, yeah.
But the real evildoer is still being supported behind bars.
You go and see him in jail?
I
do you?
visit him periodically.
So you go and see him in
about
prison?
twice a year.
And why do you do that?
Why do I do it? Well, don't you believe that people can change?
Even now, Victor Webb hasn't been disfellowshipped, though the private reproof became a public reproof when the police became involved.
Yes, before all onlookers, other members of the congregation were advised of his situation so that parents could, if they chose to, take precautionary steps to avoid situations that might compromise their children.
And that was it.
How do you feel about the church now?
I'm still very disappointed. The the more I hear, I just am so saddened that it's so endemic and everywhere. It's very saddening.
And there are other cover-ups in the church that have had even more serious consequences, allowing pedophiles to offend again and again. What happened to Simon Thomas is, by any measure, a shocking indictment of the Jehovah's Witnesses and their willful disregard of the secular law.
Now, this is where he brought you, or followed you, quite a bit, wasn't it?
Yep.
We're back at the place where,
That's
aged
when-
just 12, Simon
Yeah,
first
that's when
encountered
he
his
was,
abuser, Robert Souter.
You know, he'd touch and feel, and he'd laugh about it, or he'd give me a clip round the ear, give me a good whack, and
Just to make sure you
just to make
went
sure
along
I,
with him.
yeah. And then he'd go back up inside.
And then there were the Bible study sessions at Robert Souter's home.
Probably the worst of what happened to me happened here at this house.
And we're talking about extreme abuse.
Yeah, extreme abuse. At first it was almost surreal. It was like it wasn't happening. But I was afraid to say anything. It's just the usual. I was just afraid because I didn't want my parents to be upset, and I didn't want the congregation to be upset. I didn't want bad things said about Jehovah's Witnesses. So I basically just
Kept it to yourself.
kept it to myself and copped it on the chin.
For how long?
For about 3 years.
Then one night, a shocking revelation, when Simon's younger brother has a nervous breakdown on a church trip to the Northern Territory.
He phoned my parents to tell them that he'd been abused by Robert Souter, and it was horrific. The situation was terrible. So my father approached one of the elders and said, "Look, Robert Souter has done this and this and this to my son." So the elder said, "Okay." He said, "We'll take care of it." And I'd heard this, obviously, and I approached the elder that my father spoke to, and I said, "Look, my brother's telling the truth, because it's also happened to me."
Can you tell me the name of that elder?
That elder that we spoke to at that time was John Wingate.
John Wingate? Yeah, I'm Graham Davis from the Sunday program at Channel 9. I just wanted to talk to you about Robert Souter and the abuse of the Thomas boys in Wollongong.
No comment.
The boys first came to you, didn't they? The family first came to you.
No comment.
Well, Simon Thomas has told us that, so we know that.
John Wingate is still an elder of the Cooma congregation in southern New South Wales, where Robert Souter had moved and, we now know, had begun abusing children at the Kingdom Hall there.
What did Wingate say to you?
Well, he said he seemed to take it very seriously, and he said, "Look," he said, "we'll chase it up and leave it with me." And that was the last we heard of it.
You said to him, "Leave it with me." He says that's the last he heard of it. Did you feel that you had any responsibility to get back to this family? Did you feel?
I have no comment to make to you.
Unbeknown to the family, John Wingate and the other elders did act. They disfellowshipped Robert Souter, expelled him from the congregation. But it wasn't long before the Thomas family got some devastating news.
It was around about the 6 months, and they reinstated him into the Cooma congregation.
What did you think when you were told that?
I couldn't believe it. I was stunned, and I was unbelievably upset.
Now, what that family wants to know is why he was reinstated into the church around 6 months later.
Bring the Watchtower Society of Australia and they will answer all your questions regarding that situation.
Well, can you tell me, sir, why
I cannot make comment on it.
Why can't you speak about it?
Because I'm not at liberty to.
Why?
Because I'm not.
You handled the case.
That's none of your business.
I spoke to an elder down there, and he said Robert Souter was repentant, so when you're repentant, you're allowed back into the congregation.
Do you have a problem with hearing? You have a hearing impediment?
I'm trying to find some answers.
You're not going to get answers off me because I've told you.
So in the absence of any answers from the elders, Let's look at the Watchtower's guide.